At exactly the wrong moment, a speedboat throttled up, thinking speed meant safety. It didn't know the ocean had already betrayed it. High above the Caribbean, something was watching. Not a ship, not a drone, a hunter. This wasn't a chase. It was a countdown. In modern naval warfare scenario analysis, the fight is often decided before the target ever knows it's in danger. Sensors whisper, algorithms agree, and permission is quietly granted. Somewhere a pilot tightens his grip. Somewhere else, a crew keeps laughing, unaware their fate has already been calculated. This boat believed distance was armor. It believed water meant escape. It believed no one would spend a missile on fiberglass. That assumption lasts right up until the moment the sky gets very loud. Because what's coming next isn't a warning shot. It's a lesson measured in seconds, guided by lasers, and paid for in absolute certainty. And once the trigger is pulled, there is no outrunning the math. Here's what the smugglers never saw coming. Long before the helicopter ever left the deck, the target was already tagged, logged, prioritized. In naval warfare, scenario analysis, detection is the real weapon, and the strike is just the punctuation. 30,000 feet above the sea, a maritime patrol aircraft was calmly drawing lines on a digital map, speed, heading, engine signature, every data point tightening the net. To the crew below, the ocean looked empty, peaceful, safe. That illusion is deadly, because modern warfare doesn't chase you. It waits until escape is no longer possible. The aircraft tracking this boat wasn't guessing. It wasn't reacting. It had been watching since the moment the engines lit up at port. Every minute that passed didn't help the smugglers. It erased options. And then the handoff happened. One sensor became three. One dot became a certainty. And somewhere over the horizon, rotors began to spin. The helicopter didn't rush. It didn't need to. Because when the hunter already knows where you'll be next, speed stops mattering. And that's when the real countdown begins. By the time the helicopter broke the horizon, the outcome was already locked in. This wasn't some patrol aircraft with a camera and a radio. This was an attack platform built for one job: decisive violence. In naval warfare scenario analysis, helicopters like this don't search. They arrive when the search is over. Inside the cockpit, the pilot wasn't looking at the ocean. He was seeing through it. Heat, motion, target boxes floating in midair. The world simplified into threats and permissions. Down below, the speedboat crew felt powerful. Engines screaming, spray flying. They thought they were fast. They didn't realize the helicopter could see. Their exhaust heat like a flare in the dark. They didn't realize every head turn of the pilot shifted weapons, sensors and targeting logic in perfect sync. This is the moment that separates old-school smuggling from modern military reality. Because when a pilot can point a weapon just by looking at you, you're no longer being chased. You're being selected. And hanging under that helicopter wasn't a gun meant to scare. It was a missile designed to end discussions. Once the targeting box turned solid, there's only one step left. This is where the balance of power completely collapses. Under the helicopter's wing sat a single missile, quiet, patient, and utterly indifferent to hope. In naval warfare scenario analysis, this weapon exists to remove uncertainty. The smugglers thought zigzagging meant survival. They thought waves could hide them. They thought speed could confuse a machine. But this missile doesn't chase boats. It solves trajectories. Its guidance system doesn't care about panic or last-second turns. It updates its solution dozens of times every second, correcting for wind, motion, and desperation in real time. The boat could have turned harder. It could have gone faster. It could have prayed. None of it mattered. Because once the laser touched the hull, the missile wasn't guessing where the boat was. It knew where it would be. That's the part people don't understand about modern naval combat. The explosion isn't the scary part. The scary part is that the decision to destroy you happened minutes ago. And now the pilot hears a single phrase in his headset. Short, calm, final. Weapons free. The next 8 seconds will erase everything the crew believes about escape. The trigger pull is almost anticlimactic. No dramatic shout, no panic. Just a gentle squeeze, and physics takes over. In naval warfare scenario analysis, this is where human intent hands control to machinery. The missile drops for a fraction of a second, then it ignites. Acceleration slams it forward with brutal efficiency. ripping it past the speed of sound before the crew below even hears the launch. There is no warning splash, no time to react, only a shrinking distance and a rapidly approaching certainty. 8 seconds. That's all the time between still running and already gone. The missile climbs, then angles downward, turning gravity into an accomplice. Every micro-adjustment tightens the solution. Every correction erases another impossible escape route. On the boat, someone finally looks up. They don't see the missile. They feel it. A scream of displaced air. A pressure change that doesn't belong. A moment where instinct realizes logic was wrong. Because you can't outrun something that corrects its mistakes faster than you can think. And at the end of those 8 seconds, the ocean is about to rearrange itself. Impact doesn't feel like an explosion. It feels like reality tearing. The missile doesn't just hit the boat, it overwhelms it. In naval warfare scenario analysis, this is what happens when civilian construction meets military intent. Fiberglass, fuel, and air all fail at once. For a split second, the sea flashes white hot. Sensors saturate. Heat blooms outward faster than sound. The hull never has time to break apart. It's simply removed from the equation. Pressure crushes inward, fire expands outward, and everything in between becomes fragments with no memory of being a boat. From the helicopter, the pilot watches the thermal image spike, then collapse into chaos. Where there was motion, there is now debris. Where there was a plan, there is now silence. 8 seconds earlier, this was a high-speed run. Now it's a spreading pattern on the water. And here's the unsettling part. The missile didn't hit harder than necessary. It hit exactly as designed. Because modern naval warfare isn't emotional. It's precise. It doesn't rage, it concludes. But the real message of this strike isn't the destruction. It's who was watching. And who's already learning from it. The radio call is almost boring. Good effect on target. No cheering. No celebration. In naval warfare scenario analysis, success sounds quiet because it was expected. The system worked. The outcome matched the model. But far beyond the debris field, something else is happening. Data is already moving. Satellite links, intelligence briefings, analysts marking timelines. This single strike becomes a data point in a much larger pattern. And that's what cartel networks fear most. Not the explosion, not the missile, the certainty. Because this wasn't luck. It wasn't coincidence. It was a message delivered with mathematical clarity. The ocean is not empty. And you are never alone. Word travels fast in the underworld. Faster than boats. Faster than rumors. Routes that were safe yesterday suddenly feel exposed today. Insurance goes up. Crews hesitate. Launch times change. All because 8 seconds proved a point no speech ever could. And here's the twist. This operation wasn't expensive by military standards. In fact, when you run the numbers, this might be the most profitable 8 seconds imaginable. Here's the number that changes everything. The missile cost money. The flight cost money. The surveillance cost money. In naval warfare scenario analysis, critics love to stop right there and shake their heads. But they never finish the math. That single boat was carrying cargo worth tens of millions on the street. Not theoretical value, real money that fuels networks, violence, and corruption. 8 seconds erased months of planning and years of supply chains. Return on investment? Obscene. And the effects don't stop at the waterline. After strikes like this, traffic patterns shift. Launches get delayed. Some crews refuse to sail at all. Fear becomes friction, and friction breaks operations. This is how modern naval power actually works. Not with fleets colliding, but with selective, surgical pressure that makes entire corridors go quiet. And they did. Traffic dropped. Routes went cold. The ocean suddenly felt hostile again. Not because every boat was destroyed, but because any boat could be. And that's the genius of it. One visible strike. Hundreds of invisible consequences. But there's still one question left. Why use a helicopter at all? Because helicopters change the rules. In naval warfare scenario analysis, fixed-wing aircraft see everything, but helicopters decide. They operate low, fast, and close enough to deliver certainty, not just information. A ship alone is powerful. An aircraft alone is watchful. But together, they become a trap. The helicopter doesn't need a runway. It doesn't need warning. It launches strikes and disappears back into the fleet before anyone fully understands what happened. That unpredictability is the weapon. Smugglers can plan around patrol routes. They can study radar gaps. They can gamble on speed. What they can't plan for is a strike platform that arrives from nowhere and ends the equation in seconds. This is why modern naval doctrine leans so heavily on layered force. Sensors to find you, aircraft to follow you, helicopters to finish you. By the time the missile flew, the smugglers weren't fighting the helicopter. They were fighting an entire system. And systems don't panic. They don't miss. They don't hesitate. Which brings us to the final truth of this intercept. It wasn't about one boat. It was about the future. This strike wasn't designed to be dramatic. It was designed to be remembered. In naval warfare scenario analysis, the most powerful weapon isn't the missile, it's the precedent. One boat erased in 8 seconds rewrites risk calculations across an entire ocean. After this, every crew launching at night wonders who's watching. Every engine start feels louder. Every horizon feels crowded. Not because the Navy is everywhere, but because it could be anywhere. That's the psychological kill chain. No warnings, no chase scenes. Just a silent decision followed by overwhelming force. The ocean didn't change that day. The technology didn't change. The only thing that changed was belief. Belief that speed equals safety. Belief that distance equals protection. Belief that the sea forgives mistakes. It doesn't. And when modern military systems decide you're done, they don't argue. They don't negotiate. They conclude. 8 seconds. One message. Zero ambiguity. That's how naval power speaks now.